Good morning. I hereby call to order the sixth meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2019 and ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We want to mention to everyone to please note the safety information on the inside of the cover of the agenda, and also remind people that the Commission will act on various matters at today's meeting, which is open to the public. However, since adequate forums have been made available for public participation in cases before this Commission, there is no opportunity for the public to address the Commission at this public meeting. The first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes for March 14, 2019, and I recognize Commissioner Place, who is the editor.
Thank you. I've reviewed the minutes of the March 14, 2019 public meeting and move that they be approved as submitted.
You have heard the motion to approve the March 14, 2019 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Is there any further discussion or edits to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Now we will call upon our Secretary, Rosemary Chiavetta, to lead us through this morning's agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
morning.
Secretary.
Your bureaus and offices have prepared the following agenda items for your consideration. Therefore, let us begin on page 1 with matters presented by Director Monahan and the Bureau of Audits. It is recommended that the Commission release the audit report regarding the Peoples Natural Gas Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Madam Chair, I have a motion on that.
Motion moved by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Kennard. Under discussion. Any discussion? And I recognize Vice Chairman Sweet, who noted that he has a motion.
Thank you. Before the Commission for consideration is the publication of our Bureau of Audits report on Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, purchase gas cost rate over under collections for the 4-month period ended January 31, 2016, for the 8-month period ended September 30th, 2015, and for the 12-month period ended January 31, 2015. In the report, audit made 6 findings, including, among other things, Peoples' failure to provide ratepayers certain refunds and the associated interest. Peoples has agreed to make procedural changes to address some of the identified issues and to include certain information in future purchase gas cost filings. However, Peoples has expressed disagreement with audit's finding that interest should be included in the refunds to customers. Because customer refunds were necessary due to Peoples' own mistakes, those refunds should contain interest at the applicable legal rate. Failure to include interest may be unjust and unreasonable. Accordingly, I believe Peoples should be required to file an implementation plan subject to Commission's approval. The implementation plan shall address how Peoples will correct the deficiencies outlined by audits in its report. Therefore, I move that, number 1, the Bureau of Audits March 13, 2019 report be made public. Number 2, that Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, submit to this Commission within 60 days of the entry of an order at this docket, an implementation plan addressing how it will correct the deficiencies outlined in the audit's report. Thirdly, the implementation plan shall be served on the statutory advocates. Fourth, the Bureau of Technical Utility Services should review Peoples' implementation plan and provide an opinion and an order for Commission review within 60 days of the submission of the plan. Fifth, the Office of Special Assistant shall draft an opinion and order consistent with this motion. And finally, the docket remains open for the filing of the implementation plan with the Secretary of the Commission and the associated Bureau of Technical Utility Services action prescribed herein. Thank you.
You have heard the motion of Vice Chairman Sweet. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Place. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. The matter as amended. Is there any further discussion? If not, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Seeing none, the matter as amended passes 5-0.
Continuing on page 1, it is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt the remaining 3 audit reports on page 1.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Kennard. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 2, in matters presented by Director Sophie and the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended that the commission adopt in an omnibus motion all of the items on page 2, beginning with the application of the Allegheny County Port Authority and continuing to include all of the items on page 3, ending with the exclusion request of the Metropolitan Edison Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Commissioner Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 4 in matters presented by Director Diskin and the Bureau of Technical Utility Services. It is recommended in an omnibus motion that the commission adopt all of the items on page 4, beginning with the tariff changes of the first energy companies and continuing on page 5 to include all items on page 5, ending with the tariff supplement filed by PPL Electric Utilities.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 6, in matters presented by Chief Counsel Pan-Q and the Law Bureau, it is recommended that the commission adopt the proposed order regarding the Pennsylvania Sustainable Energy Board.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
It is recommended that the commission adopt the proposed order in the petition of Tri-Co Connections, LLC.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Kennard. Under discussion, I do have comments, and I ask that my comments be spread upon the record in their entirety. The eligible telecommunications carrier, ETC, designation we grant today is required by federal law before a carrier can receive federal funding. It is also historic. Tri-Co can now proceed to get the funding it seeks to construct a fiber-to-home broadband network in a very high-cost areas of rural Pennsylvania. This fiber network, a network that offers virtually unlimited capacity, is going to provide broadband service to rural consumers at speeds greater than the federal minimum and at an affordable rate. This includes eligible low-income consumers under the federal Lifeline program. Tri-Co's petition was successful, at least in part, due to a $17.15 million funding commitment from Pennsylvania as part of the Office of Broadband Initiative's focus on getting broadband to rural Pennsylvania. We look forward to working with Tri-Co as it deploys the state-of-the-art fiber broadband network and begins to provide service to rural Pennsylvania. Any further comments?
I have a comment, Madam.
Vice Chairman Sweet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to elaborate upon your comments a bit, and I certainly applaud them, and the activity of Tri-County. Early in my tenure on this commission, I learned, along with the other commissioners, that there was a changed initiative at the federal level that was going to result in over $141 million of declined funds for rural broadband to revert to a national auction. And this threatened, really, the ability of Pennsylvanians and Pennsylvania's communities and Pennsylvania's businesses to continue to take advantage of money that our own ratepayers had been sending to Washington, D.C. This commission filed a proceeding with the FCC in conjunction with the Wolf administration, the chair and I, and former Commissioner Powelson met with the chairman of the FCC and attempted to lobby the FCC to change course and to provide Pennsylvania a carve-out, much as they had done for New York State, to preserve this $140 million of ratepayer money. There was a full-scale lobbying effort I won't go into. Many of our federal officials were very aggressive in attempting to assist, but ultimately and sadly, we failed in the effort to preserve all $140 million specifically for Pennsylvania. Tri-County Connections, which is an affiliate of Tri-County Rural Electric, in their efforts to try to close the digital divide that exists in its service area, developed a broadband deployment plan. They actually engaged in the lobbying effort I described. They approached this entire challenge with vigor and with tenacity. And they, notwithstanding the challenges that were confronted, participated in the national auction. And by goodness, they won. They were one of the winners. And with the assistance, as the chair has mentioned, of an over $17 million grant from the broadband office, which the governor recently created, and with the DCD grant and with their own money and their own sweat equity, managed to prevail in that auction, which I think is terrific and which will be hopefully the start of more significant efforts to expand broadband in the rural parts of Pennsylvania that's so desperately needed. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Right, thank you, Vice Chairman Sweet. Any further comments or discussion?
I have a comment, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Kennard.
I share your sense, Madam Chairman, of the history being made by Tri-County's entry into the broadband field, and also want to recognize with Vice Chairman Sweet that this is the money that is on your telephone bill being put to work. There's a line called universal service. We pay millions of dollars as a Commonwealth, and this is money largely coming back from the federal government as well as supplemented by the state government that makes this deployment in rural Pennsylvania possible. And I also want to remark on how historic this is in terms of industry structure. Over the last 20 years, the predominant dynamic in the telecommunications space has been convergence. As cable went from TV only to broadband and voice, as voice telephone service went from broadband, went to include broadband as well as TV, and as wireless came on board and also started to hit the triple play, Tri-County has shifted this paradigm again. Now we have the convergence of broadband and electric service, an interesting change, I think, significant in the playing field. Broadband service by a co-op is an extremely efficient form of entry given their customer relationships and the facilities they already have put in place. And today we help clear the regulatory barriers and enable entry by Tri-County. This is truly a landmark for us. And I also want to do a shout out to Buck Pankew and the Law Bureau. As a case of first impression, this has raised many legal issues. And I want to thank the Law Bureau, particularly Dave Screven, for his diligence and hard work to bring this up to the point where we could vote on it this morning.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Chairman, I do have a comment.
Mr. Coleman.
Thank you. Anytime you have multiple commissioners commenting on a case, you realize it's a big deal, and in fact, that is the case this morning. I guess my other observation, being here for over 9 years now, that when you're late in the order in terms of comments on a particular case, there's probably little material left here to articulate. But let me just say this, that I'd like to agree with all the sentiments of my colleagues. This is truly a historic moment here in Pennsylvania for all the reasons that you've heard this morning. And having a rural electric cooperative stepping into the broadband space is a big deal. It's a big deal for Pennsylvania, and it's a big deal for rural Pennsylvania specifically. I want to commend Commissioner Sweet. I think he was humble in his comments this morning about the level of effort that he put forward to try to retain the FCC dollars here in Pennsylvania. And I would respectfully say he probably understated his effort. This was a Herculean effort on his part, and I think we are seeing the value of that effort here this morning. I also want to thank Commissioner Kennard, who has been our leader in the broadband discussion and has really helped shape where we go as a commission, and to really give a good appreciation of some of the various aspects that are important to us as we move forward. And the last, I just want to come back to the staff, that all of this has been made possible by our Law Bureau, and as Commissioner Kennard has indicated, David Scrubbins, who's been our point person on this. So I want to thank you, Buck, and the team for doing a great job in getting us here this morning. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
And at the bottom of page 6, it is recommended that the commission adopt the proposed tentative order regarding Act 129.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Place, second by Vice Chairman Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning to page 7, it is recommended that the commission adopt the proposed order in the joint petition of Frontier Communications.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Kennard. Under discussion, I would like to offer for the record my usual recusal statement consistent with Section 11010 of the Commonwealth Ethics Act. I will be recusing myself from this matter because my brother is employed by Frontier Communications. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 4-0, noting my recusal.
And turning to page 8, and matters presented by Chief A.L.J. Rainey and the Office of Administrative Law Judge, it should be noted that the first item regarding the Delaware Sewer Company has been postponed to the public meeting of April 25th. And finally, on page 8, it is recommended that the commission adopt A.L.J. Watson's initial decision in the complaint of Kimberly Beckman versus the Metropolitan Edison Company.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sweet, second by Commissioner Coleman. Under discussion, I would just like to point out that I agree with dismissing this case due to the complainant's failure to comply with the ALJ's interim orders, directing her to respond to a discovery request. I agree that this matter should be dismissed for failure to respond. However, because this is a pro se litigant, and because I do not see any attempt to abuse our administrative process, the matter should not be dismissed with prejudice. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes all agenda items to be considered today.
Before we close out on our business, I would like to recognize Commissioner Coleman for comments on Safe Digging Month.
Well, thank you, Chairman. As many of you that are in the room and have been in the room over the years, Safe Digging Month has been a important date to be recognized, particularly by me. This is an effort that the Commission has been undertaking for a number of years and moving in enforcement responsibility to the Commission for the 811 program. What I wanted to do this morning is just give you maybe a quick snapshot of where we are at the Commission in terms of having this new responsibility. As many of you know, that the genesis for this was a result of looking at over 6,000 hits to underground facilities each year. And a majority of those hits are on natural gas lines. And so we felt compelled to pursue a legislative change that would bring that enforcement responsibility into the Commission, and so it has become reality. One of the key components of this is a objective of transparency and looking at enforcing the law through the use of a damage prevention committee, which is a fairly unique vehicle for us here at this Commission, but it's a model that is used in other states, in which there are stakeholders within the underground facility industry that are part of a group that adjudicates the enforcement of those violations. And in fact, my colleagues and myself have given that responsibility to the Damage Prevention Committee. The committee has been in operation now for 4 months, and I thought it might be worthwhile to share with you just the level of the activity of the group. During that period of 4 months, the Damage Prevention Committee has had 415 discipline actions against those who have violated the law. And if you've been around for this discussion over the years, our objective here is to really change the behavior and to reduce those line hits. And we believe the way you do that is through a series of fines and education. And I would emphasize the education piece this morning and making sure that people who are digging and working in and around underground facilities know the law, that the consequence can be catastrophic, as we all know. I wanted to also extend an invitation to anyone who has interest in this, that in the spirit of transparency, that each month the Damage Prevention Committee meets in this room. So if you have interest in seeing how this process works, you're welcome to be here at Hearing Room 1 and sit and watch how the Damage Prevention Committee does its work. You will see that it's a very transparent process, that the cases are brought up on the screen so you can all see what the committee is seeing. Through the use of technology and an interface with the One Call organization in West Mifflin, we're able to pull up the ticket that has been issued for the dig. We're able to pull up video. We're able to pull up photography, anything that is in that particular file for the Damage Prevention Committee to make their determination. So it's, again, a highly interactive process, a very transparent process, and is open to the public if you have interest in seeing that. I want to also give a shout out to the team in this organization that I am tremendously proud of. That this is not an easy exercise to get to where we are today. And I want to particularly thank Rick Kanaski, who is the director of our Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement. And it is in Rick's organization that this activity takes place. And it takes place through our manager of electric and gas safety, Paul Metro, who serves as the chair of the Damage Prevention Committee and does a fabulous job with that. And I think you would agree with me if you happen to see how the Damage Prevention Committee moves along very efficiently and through hundreds of cases each month. A key component of this is the supervisor and the investigators on the team. We have a supervisor and 4 investigators, and it is their job to do the heavy lifting and to be investigating these alleged violations. And again, it is an awful lot of work to bring this together on a monthly basis, but Kasha Zadanis, who is our supervisor, has done a fabulous job in assembling a team that is doing a first-rate job in making sure that we are applying the law in a even-handed way and making sure that we are aiming towards reduction of line hits here in Pennsylvania. So I just wanted to briefly share that piece with you. Again, I would welcome any comments, any feedback, those of you who are involved in this process. One of the things that I have emphasized from the beginning is that we want to make sure this is done in the right way. I believe that everybody can win in this process, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're a business, whether you own the facilities, whether you're an excavator, whether you're a line locator, everyone wins when we do this correctly. So again, I remain open for any comments, constructive criticism that you may have in how we have implemented this. The goal is continuous improvement. We want to make sure that this process continues to get better and better each day and each year. And again, the goal is to reduce line hits, which is good for all of us. So thank you this morning. Thank you for the indulgence. Thank you for the time. And please dig safely in Pennsylvania. Make sure you call 811. Even if you're digging on your own property and putting in a shrub or a tree, call 811. Let's all be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Coleman, and your commitment to this this program as well. Without that, that is all of our business to come before us today. We do have a retirement announcement after we gavel out, so we do ask everyone to remain in their seats. But without objection, we are adjourned.